Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtotara Sata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Jayam Vishnupad Srila Gaurakrishna Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Sachinandana Bhakti Vedanta Kaur Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jaya Shri Rupa Sanata Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Kaur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Gurunath Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Iskon Vartma Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru, Sri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And I forgot. Gora Premanande. Haribo! Yes. Yes, I did. I did.
You just say the best.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatam Vyasam Jajojayam Yuridayat Nasta Presha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance classes on the Bhagavatam and by the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. In loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praise or transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Yes.
Indra Swami was arrested in Russia on 26.
Oh no.
He was in jail for 4 days. He was released today. He's been banned from Russia for 5 years, but yeah, they arrested him. He was in the jail cell for 4 days.
For what?
What they get him for?
They always have some stupid thing in Russia. It's like the way they do there. He was good.
Oh, I saw a video of the congregation there having sadhusanga in Russia.
That's why he was there. That's why he was there.
Well, that's too bad. All right, well, we must soldier on. Such is the risks of trying to spread this Sankirtan movement, you know. We're very fortunate to not really have to face anything like that here.
Yeah.
And yet, still, you know, we find reasons to not go out on Sankirtan, right? You know, there's always reasons to not do that. And we're not even facing jail, you know.
Go out on Sankirtan in negative 20-degree weather.
Yeah.
Should get more books than any other people.
Yeah.
Get more devotees.
So I met a nice man in the restaurant yesterday. He's visiting from Canada, and he said he's going to come to the Sunday feast tonight. But he was very kind and curious, and he saw me preparing for class, and he said, "Oh, you're giving class tomorrow." He's like, "What time?" He wanted to come see it, but he said he couldn't because there was a big cricket match that he didn't want to miss. So, yeah, no, he's Indian, and so yeah, but he's living in Canada. Yeah, so the match is between Pakistan and India. But anyway, he said, "Oh, so how many people come to the class? 100?" And I said, "No." And he's like, 50. I said, "No." He said, 25. I said, "No, more like 4." Anyway, it was very cute. So I hope he comes tonight. He's very nice.
About 70 on long each class.
What?
Each class gets about 40 to 70 people.
Yeah. All right, so we're reading Canto 4, Creation. Today's September 28th, 2025, and we're reading Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 29 talks between Narada and King Prachini Bari, and we're doing verse 84. Okay. Etan mukunda yashasa puvanam punanam. Deva shivaya mukani hrishtamatma saucham. Yaha kirtyamanamadi kachati parmeshyam. Nasmin bhave brahmati mukta samasta bandha. Etan mukunda yashasa puvanam punanam. Deva shivarya mukani hrishtamatma saucham. Yaha kirtyamanamadi kachati parmeshtam. Dasmin bhave brahmati mukta samasta bandha. Etan mukunda yashasa bhuvanam punanam. Deva shivaya mukani hrishtamatma saucham. Yaha kirtyamanamagat adhikachati parmeshyam. Nasmin bhave brahmati mukta samasta bandha. Okay, please chant.
Etan mukunda yashasa bhuvanam punanam.
Etam mukunda yashasa bhuvanam punanam.
Deva shivaya mukanishritam atma saucham.
Deva shivaya mukani shritam saucham.
Yakirtyamanam adhikachati parameshyam.
Yakirtyamana marikachati parameshtam.
Nasmin bhave brahmati mukta samasta bandha.
Nasmin bhave brahmati mukta samasta bandha.
Etan mukunda yashasa bhuvanam punanam.
Etan mukunda yashasa bhuvanam punanam.
Devar shivarya mukadihishtam atma shaucham.
Deva shivaya mukani drishtamatma saucham.
Yakirtayan manam adi gachati parameshtayam.
Yakirtamana marikachati parameshyam.
Nasmin bhave paramati mukta samasta bandha.
Nasmin bhave brahmati mukta samasta bandha.
Etan mukunda yashasa bhuvanam punanam.
Etam mukunda yashasa bhuvanam punanam. Deva shivaya mukani shristamatma saucham. Yakirtamana madhikachati parameshyam. Nasmin bhave brahmati mukta samasta bandha. All right, word for word. Etat.
Etat.
This narration.
This narration.
Mukunda Yashasa.
Mukunda yashasa.
With the fame of Lord Krishna.
With the fame of Lord Krishna.
Bhuvananam.
Bhuvanam.
This material world.
This material world.
Punanam.
Punanam.
Sanctifying.
Sanctifying.
Deva Rishi,
Deva Rishi,
of the great sages,
of the great sages,
Varya,
Varya,
of the chief,
of the chief,
Mukha,
Mukha,
from the mouth,
from the mouth,
Nihrishtam,
Nishtam,
uttered,
uttered,
Atmasocham,
Atmasocham,
purifying the heart,
purifying the heart,
Yaha,
Yaha,
anyone,
anyone,
Kirtyamanam,
Kirtamanam,
being chanted,
being chanted,
Adhi Gachati,
Adhigachati,
goes back,
goes back,
Parameshtyam,
Parameshtam,
to the spiritual world,
to the spiritual world,
Na,
Na,
never,
never,
Asmin,
Asmin,
in this,
in this,
Bhave,
Bhave,
material world,
material world,
Brahmati,
Brahmati,
wanders,
wanders,
Mukta,
Mukta,
being liberated,
being liberated,
Samasta,
Samasta,
from all,
from all,
Bandhaha,
Bandhaha,
bondage.
bondage.
All right, translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This narration, spoken by the great sage Narada, is full of the transcendental fame of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, this narration, when described, certainly sanctifies this material world. It purifies the heart of the living entity and helps him attain his spiritual identity. One who relates this transcendental narration will be liberated from all material bondage and will no longer have to wander within this material world. Purport. Yeah. Purport. As indicated in verse 79, Narada Muni advised King Prachini Bari to take to devotional service rather than waste time performing ritualistic ceremonies and fruitive activities. The vivid descriptions of the subtle and gross bodies in this chapter are most scientific, and because they are given by the great sage Narada, they are authoritative. Because these narrations are full of the glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they constitute the most effective process for purification of the mind. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed, Chaito Darpanam Marjanam. The more we talk of Krishna, think of Krishna, and preach for Krishna, the more we become purified. This means we no longer have to accept a hallucinatory, gross, and subtle body, but instead attain our spiritual identity. One who tries to understand this instructive spiritual knowledge is delivered from this ocean of nescience. The word Parameshtyam is very significant in this connection. Parameshtyam is also called Brahmaloka. It is the planet on which Lord Brahma lives. The inhabitants of Brahmaloka are always discuss such narrations so that after the annihilation of the material world, they can be directly transferred to the spiritual world. One who is transferred to the spiritual world does not have to go up and down with this material world, within this material world. Sometimes spiritual activities are also called parameshtyam. Om Jnana Tirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshara Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swaparantekam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapara Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavams Cha Shri Rupam Sagrachata Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sachivam Savadetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamvitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopeka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishubhanu Suti Devi Pramamami Hari Pre Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Maha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right. So this verse is just wrapping up the story of the city of nine gates that we've been on for how long now? Like a few months, right? Yeah, so we've been on this story of the King of Nine Gates, this allegory that Narada Muni was narrating to King Prachini Bari. And he was doing this to enlighten him to the futility of fruitive activities and the importance of devotional service. So this verse is telling us just how powerful hearing and telling this story is, or any story about Krishna or Krishna's devotees. Because Krishna Katha or devotee Katha has the power to purify with that transcendental sound vibration. So sound is, when it's said that when you leave your body, sound, your hearing is the last sense to go. And so that's why, if we're around a devotee who's leaving his body, we want to be chanting, we want to be maybe reading Krishna book or the Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita so that they can hear even as they're leaving their body, right? Because that hearing is the last sense to go. So hearing is so powerful. It's so important. If you think about just in the mundane sense, all the different things that hearing is able to accomplish. So this made me think of our own government has used like heavy metal music and other like rap music and stuff to torture prisoners, right? They just play this music continually at a loud volume, and it drives these people crazy, or at least drives them to want to do whatever our government wants them to do, whether it's, release a hostage or confess to a crime or whatever it is. Right, and so this is why, this is an effect that just hearing can have on us. Think about, the whole influencer culture that's going on right now, right? We have influencers for everything now. And that's because we are easily influenced by what we hear, by what we see, by what stories we listen to, right? That's why product placement in movies is such a big thing, right? You're watching a movie and you see, oh yes, they're drinking this kind of coffee. I will also drink that kind of coffee, right? Because we're easily influenced by what we hear, by what we see, the stories that we listen to. Movies themselves have changed, like what is acceptable morally, right? I mean, things have changed so drastically in the last 100 years or so about what's acceptable morally. I mean, I remember growing up, it was very taboo still to have a child without being married, right? This was considered taboo, and this was just in the 80s. Now it's pretty much normal. It's pretty much normal. It's no longer really considered taboo. And a lot of that comes from, watching so many television stories and movies and things like that with storylines where these kinds of things are happening, where there's all kinds of sexual intrigue happening with no whisper of marriage, right? Unless it's to break the marriage, right? We're going to cheat. And so because we're hearing these stories, we're seeing these stories, it's becoming more and more acceptable in our society, right? Our morals are kind of sliding because of that. And so, there's that saying, garbage in, garbage out. So whatever you're putting in your ears and in your eyes, that will come out at some point. So if you're, listening to violent, movies, or listening to violent music about just drugs and sex and violence, then there's a good chance that that's going to be what you end up talking about, right? And that that's not uplifting for anybody. So just think about imagine the effect of hearing stories about Krishna and saintly people, what kind of effect that will have on us. Because that power of hearing is so important, it's so powerful. Imagine if we spend our time hearing about Krishna and saintly people, well, then those are going to be the things that we talk about. Those are going to be the things that influence us, right? Instead of drinking this kind of coffee because that's what they had in the movie, or instead of, cheating on my spouse, because I've seen that in so many movies and television shows. Instead, I'm going to be emulating these saintly persons that are doing saintly things, right? And so let's see a few little quotes that I had about the power of hearing. So this is from the third canto when Lord Kapila is talking to his mother Devahuti. And so Lord Kapila, as we know, is an incarnation of Lord Krishna. And so he says, in the association of pure devotees, the discussion of pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and to the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed, and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. And he continues on to say, thus consciously engaged in devotional service and the association of devotees, a person gains distaste for sense gratification, both in this world and the next, by constantly thinking of the activities of the Lord. This process of Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of mystic power. When one is actually situated on that path of devotional service, he's able to control the mind. I mean, imagine that, being able to control your mind, right? I mean, that's what, so many people, I would say pretty much everybody has trouble with that, right? Controlling the mind. But as we do this process, then we're able to control the mind. So then he continues, thus by not engaging in the service of the modes of material nature, but by developing Krishna consciousness, knowledge, and renunciation, and by practicing yoga, in which the mind is always fixed in devotional service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one achieves my association in this very life. For I am the Supreme Personality, the absolute truth, right? So by doing this process, we can actually have the association of Krishna in this lifetime. And so, I mean, it sounds really good to me. I mean, it doesn't sound like there's much to lose. We can control our minds. We can gain distaste from sense gratification, which we know is the cause of so much misery, right? I mean, people are dedicating their lives to improving their sense gratification, and then when it doesn't happen, what happens? They're completely upset. They're completely disturbed, right? When the Great Depression happened and there was that huge stock market crash, what happened? Those stockbrokers were jumping out of windows, right? Because their sense gratification was impeded. They had lost all the money, all their own money, all the money of their clients. And so they're just jumping out of windows because they're like, there's nothing left, right? I can't enjoy my senses when I don't have, vast amounts of wealth. And so this is what happens when that sense gratification is hard to come by. And as we know, it's ultimately unsatisfying. So that sense gratification, even if it does satisfy us for a little bit, ultimately that in itself becomes unsatisfying. That's why we keep needing, that's why the whole fashion industry exists, right? Because we're unsatisfied with the current style. We want something new. We want something different, right? It's the same reason why people, they replace their cars. I mean, how often do people replace their cars? There's nothing wrong with it, but they have to get a new car sometimes every year, right? Because they're not satisfied anymore with that car they just bought the previous year, and there's nothing wrong with it. So in the fourth canto, it says, my dear king, in the place where pure devotees live, following the rules and regulations, and thus purely conscious and engaged with great eagerness in hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In that place, if one gets a chance to hear their constant flow of nectar, which is exactly like the waves of a river, one will forget the necessities of life, namely hunger and thirst, and become immune to all kinds of fear, lamentation, and illusion. I mean, that's huge. So we hear that constant nectar flowing out. Suddenly, our bodily needs, they really aren't bothering us so much anymore, right? In our mind, we're always thinking, oh, yes, I need that piece of chocolate cake. I know that's what Jamuna's thinking, right? I need that piece of chocolate cake, right? But do you actually need that piece of chocolate cake? No. Okay, maybe Jamuna does, but, right? And so you're thinking, oh, I need that. Oh, I need that. But as you hear the nectar of hearing about the Lord and his devotees, suddenly those things don't become needs anymore, right? It's just, you can get by with just taking what you need to keep your body alive. You don't need to eat, the big piece of chocolate cake, or, get that new car, or whatever it is. And then to be free of fear and lamentation and illusion. I mean, fear is the biggest motivator going on in our world right now. Well, fear and sex, but I mean, if you watch the news, it's all fear-based, right? It's trying to basically make everyone, you should be afraid of this group of people, right? That's what the news is telling you. And then the news is telling them, you should be afraid of those people, right? And because of this, everybody's living in this kind of low-level constant state of fear, and it's causing so many conflicts, and so many, families are breaking up, right? Because they can't sit down to a meal together without arguing about stuff that doesn't even matter, right? They're arguing about politics, and it's because of this fear, right? There's people are just so afraid that, these people are trying to oppress me, or these people are trying to oppress others, or these people are trying to hurt me, or these people are trying to take my stuff, right? That's a big one, right? These people are trying to take our jobs, these people are trying to take our tax money, right? And so it's all fear-based. Okay, so this hearing, it uncovers our true identity, because what our true identity is that we're already perfect. We're already perfect. We're a perfect, beautiful devotees of Krishna, but we're just covered over. And so we just have to remove those layers so we can see that. So I was thinking about this in the Christian world, there's this idea that actually we're all sinners, right? We're all sinners, and that's kind of like the baseline, right? But actually, we are all perfect devotees of Krishna, right? Now we may be doing some sinful activities, but that's not who we are. That's not what our true identity is, because we're already those perfect devotees. So one thing that we need, though, is to have the mercy of the Lord and his devotees. So we need the mercy of the devotees to tell us these stories and to tell us how to get home, how to go back home. So one sentence that stuck out to me and from this purport was, let's see here. It says, one who tries to understand this instructive spiritual knowledge is delivered from this ocean of nescience. So notice it says one who tries to understand, right? One who tries. It doesn't say one who understands, right? It says one who tries to understand. And so we know that you just have to sincerely be trying to understand. It doesn't mean you have to understand it perfectly, because if we did, I mean, none of us would be sitting here right now, right? Because it's like, in order to read all the Vedas and understand them perfectly would take lifetimes, right? But if we're sincerely trying, that's all we need to be delivered from this ocean of nescience. Because Krishna, he carries what we lack, right? He keeps what we have, protects what we have, and he carries what we lack, right? And so Krishna is going to help us. He's going to give us that mercy as long as we're trying to understand him. And so I think that was a really important point to point out. So some examples of just how powerful hearing is are, the examples we all know, like Prahlad Maharaj in the womb, right? He's hearing while he's in the womb from Narada Muni, and he's becoming enlightened and becoming a great devotee because of that, because of how powerful that hearing is. And then the other is Parikshit, right? King Parikshit, and Sukadeva Goswami, right? Sukadeva Goswami is narrating to him the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's because King Parikshit, being very intelligent, wants to know what is the duty of a man about to die, right? And so by hearing this, he becomes prepared. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Sukadeva Goswami. This is a little story about Sukadeva Goswami. So in his previous life, Sukadeva Goswami, he was a parrot, but he wasn't just any parrot. Who knows what specific parrot he was? Whose parrot was he? Huh? Yeah, Radharani's parrot. Yeah. So he was the parrot of Srimati Radharani, and he would take messages from her to Krishna and back. And so when Srimati Radharani was about to leave this world and go back to the spiritual world, she told her parrot called Sukha, she said, stay here. But of course, he didn't want to be separated from her. And so he didn't want to stay here without her. And so Srimati Radharani told him, wherever the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord are being narrated, you will not feel separation from me. So then Sukha, the parrot, starts looking for a place where Harikatha is going on. And finally he goes to Kailash, goes to Mount Kailash, right? And that's the place where Lord Shiva and Parvati are living. And so Lord Shiva, he's reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam to Parvati. And Sukha, he hid himself in a bush. He hid himself in the bush or a tree or something. And Lord Shiva is he's narrating these beautiful pastimes. And he was so absorbed in reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, every few minutes, Parvati, his wife, would make some sort of comment like, oh, yes, just kind of know that, so he would know she's listening. But after some time, she actually fell asleep. I know you're familiar with that. So she fell asleep, but you're in good company, okay? We just need to get a parrot to come to you. So she fell asleep. But Sukha, he didn't want him to stop the narrations, right? And so Sukha started kind of imitating the sounds that she was making. And so, every so often going, oh, yes, yeah, And so then when the end of the recitation, when the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam came about, Parvati woke up. And Lord Shiva asked her, oh, how did you like the narration? And she said, oh, my Lord, please forgive me. I actually fell asleep. And so Lord Shiva, he was just like, what? He's like, I heard you. I heard you going, oh. And so he starts looking all around. And to see, somebody must be hiding here. There must be somebody else here. So he's looking all around. Finally, he sees the parrot sitting in the tree. And Lord Shiva starts thinking, well, this parrot is probably not qualified to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. And if an unqualified person hears these transcendental narrations, there'll be lots of disturbances. Therefore, he wanted to kill Sukha. He wanted to kill the parrot. So Lord Shiva took his trident and he ran towards Sukha. And seeing Lord Shiva, he started to fly away. Lord Shiva followed him, and finally the parrot reached the hermitage of Srila Vyasadeva. And of course, Srila Vyasadeva, what was he doing there? He was reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? And so he was reciting to his wife. And while hearing it, his wife yawned, and the parrot just flew right into her mouth, right? Which would be very startling, but the story doesn't mention anything about her being startled by this. But I personally, huh? It must have been what? A lovebird? Yeah, one of those little ones. But still, that would be pretty startling. I get startled when a gnat flies into my mouth, let alone a whole bird. Anyway, so the Sukha flies into her open mouth while she's yawning. So Lord Shiva gets there to the hermitage and he asks Vyasadeva, have you seen this parrot? And Lord Shiva tells him what happened, that anyone who hears the Srimad, so Lord Shiva tells Vyasadeva that anyone who hears the Srimad Bhagavatam gets free from the cycle of birth and death and becomes eternal. So Srila Vyasadeva commented, well, since the parrot heard the Srimad Bhagavatam, he's become eternal, so he can't be killed. And so Lord Shiva was like, okay, well, that's a good point. So he left. So the parrot, Sukha, he's still inside the body of Vyasadeva's wife, and he took the form of a little baby. And so there's this little baby in her womb. However, that little baby did not want to come out on time. And so that little baby stayed in the womb for 16 years. I couldn't imagine being pregnant for 16 years. Wow. I mean, no, thank you. And so this was actually Sukadeva Goswami. He was the one that recited the Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit, right? And so, and so what can we learn from this? Well, that we should all attentively hear the pastimes of the Supreme Lord and understand the philosophy. And then we can also become devotees of the Supreme Lord. And that is the perfection of hearing and chanting. And because Sukha had first heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from a great personality like Lord Shiva and Lord Vyasadeva, we must hear from devotees of the Lord. So we don't want to just hear from anyone, right? We want to hear from actual devotees, because that is what is purifying. Okay, so I always liked that story. It's super cute. So Narada, in this verse, he's also telling King Prachinibari to not waste his time on sacrifices, on rituals, and to focus on devotional service. And so we start that devotional service by chanting, right? And so there's these beautiful quotes there's one from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It says, "My dear Lord, anyone who keeps your holy name on his tongue is greater than an initiated Brahmana, although he may be born in a family of dog eaters and therefore, by material calculations, be the lowest of men. He is glorious nevertheless. That is the wonderful power of chanting the holy name of the Lord. One who chants the holy name is understood to have performed all kinds of austerities. He has studied all the Vedas. He has performed all the great sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas, and he has already taken his bath in all the holy places of pilgrimage." Right? So doing those sacrifices and rituals is unnecessary because we've already done them if we're chanting the holy name, right? So one more quote. This is from the 3rd canto. "Oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name. Even if born in families of dog eaters, such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your lordship, they must have bathed at the holy places of pilgrimage and studied the Vedas and fulfilled everything required." So again, that's confirmation. We don't have to do these ritualistic things, right? And we see this, a lot. One of our most popular things here at this temple, right? People call all the time, "Oh, I have a new car. Can you, do a ceremony for it? Or I have a new house, or this," right? People call all the time to do this. And while that's a very good, to help maintain the families of our priests, right? Really, if they just chanted the holy name and took to devotional service, none of these things are necessary. So I wanted to tell one more story, and this is about King Prithu and the Ashvamedha sacrifice, right? And so King Prithu, he was doing the Ashvamedha sacrifice, which is where you sacrifice 100 horses, right? And so he had sacrificed 99 horses, and he's going, about to sacrifice the 100th horse to complete this whole sacrifice. And Indra, the king of heaven, sees this, and he starts to get a little worried. He's like, wait a minute, if if he completes the sacrifice, then he becomes eligible to become king of heaven. And I'm king of heaven. I don't want to lose my position, right? And he also becomes maybe a little bit envious that, he's doing this and he's going to make me look bad, right? So Indra decides he's going to steal this horse, right? And so he actually disguises himself as a holy person, as a sannyasi, or in the verses it says a liberated person. He disguises himself, and then he goes and he steals the horse. Now King Prithu's son finds out about this, and he goes after him and he retrieves the horse. He gets the horse back from him, but he sees that he's dressed as a sannyasi, and so he doesn't kill him. He doesn't want to, be responsible for killing a brahmana, right? Because that's a very great sin. So he doesn't kill him, but he gets the horse back. So then Indra, not to be outdone, of course, he still, has the same fear that he had before, losing his position. He goes back again. This time he's disguised as a different kind of sannyasi, right? To go and steal the horse. And he does. And again, King Prithu's son sees what's happening. He finds out what's happening. He retrieves the horse. But again, doesn't kill him. So finally, Indra makes himself invisible. And he makes himself invisible and steals the horse again. And so this time, King Prithu's son, he's finally sort of had enough. He draws his bow. He's ready to kill him. And at this point, the other sages stop him. And they say, no, you cannot kill the king of heaven. He's all these demigods that you're trying to please with this sacrifice are part and parcel of him. And he's in turn part and parcel of Krishna. So you cannot do this. And so they actually call in Lord Brahma. And so Lord Brahma comes and he tells King Prithu, basically, just don't complete the sacrifice. Why do you need to complete this? You already understand. You already know the true purport of life. You're already liberated. You don't need to be doing this sacrifice. And so King Prithu, he doesn't do the 100th. He doesn't sacrifice the 100th horse, and he never completes the sacrifice. And so in that way, he shows that it is not necessary to do these kind of ritualistic sacrificial things, right? All that is necessary is to do devotional service. And the best form of devotional service that we have is chanting the holy name, right? And it says we don't have to kill any horses. It doesn't cost anything, right? And as we do that, and we hear this beautiful stories, we hear these wonderful narrations of Krishna and his devotees, we become purified, and we're able to reclaim our actual position and bring out our true self, which is a perfect devotee of Krishna. And so I think I'll end there. If there is any comments or questions, yes. Kirtan Ishwara Gaurangadas.
You mentioned about hearing, and I was thinking about it, how it's detrimental to hear nonsense.
Yeah.
Someone chatted something, but I missed it. I didn't see what they said. Anyways, if we don't chant, if we don't hear consciously, we'll hear unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. If we don't actively make a program to hear Krishna Katha, to read Krishna Katha, speak of Krishna Katha, then we're going to hear Maya. And so that's the point, that we just can't rely on I'm in the temple or I'm, with the devotees to make advancement in Krishna consciousness. We have to actively make our program and consciously hear. Otherwise, we'll take everything we do, Mangalarti, Japa, Bhagavatam class, unconsciously. And then we still get benefit, but we don't get the same benefit that we get otherwise. And I'll also hear all the other things. So I was thinking about that it comes to like consciousness, that we have to have a conscious desire to hear. And in that way, we can take advantage of all these facilities.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, like I said at the beginning of the class, that when that man, he said, oh, how many people come to class? 100. And my immediate thought was, I wish it was 100, because for so many people, I think they're just kind of, like you said, they're not so conscious about it. And so that they're maybe, doing some form of devotional service, but maybe not in the most conscious way. And therefore they don't have the desire to hear.
It becomes a ritual, and becomes who's good at the ritual and who's not good at the ritual. But it's not in opposition to the genuine. Krishna says, follow the rules and regulations and thus develop a desire to attain me. So if we're just following rules and regulations, but we're not developing that desire to attain Krishna, that's niyamagraha. And so it's very important that we consciously hear and we make that desire to not just be a religious person, like Gurudev said a long time ago when I was just like, before I was initiated, before I lived at the temple, one of the very first things he said to me was, people want spiritual life. They want this spiritual life. They have this like idea of a fairy tale life in ISKCON. This is the goal of Krishna consciousness, not spiritual life, it's Krishna.
Right.
And so that was a powerful statement that actually we don't want spiritual life, we want Krishna.
Yeah.
We want to bypass the spiritual life and just get Krishna.
Yeah.
And if we have to have a so-called spiritual life, then we'll take it because we're trying to get to Krishna.
Right. I mean, that spiritual life is just a side effect of attempting to reach that goal, right? Which is, like you said, Krishna.
But I think sometimes there's distraction. The point he's making is sometimes there's distraction with the goal and with they think that the process is the goal. In a sense it is, but taken the wrong way,
Right. Yeah, and like you said, then it just becomes ritual, and rituals are unnecessary. It's that devotion to Krishna that we want. So, yeah. Right. Anybody else? Arjuna.
Okay, I have a few questions. The most pressing one from like the very beginning, I forget if it's from the verse or the purport, but like, why in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other texts, like if the goal is devotional service, and it's supposed to be unmotivated and not supposed to be, oh, if I do this, like I'll get liberation or I'll be freed from, why does it time after time always say like one who does this, one who hears this, one, they're going to become liberated and get all these results? Because then you don't know. I'm like, am I really doing it because it's the right thing to do, or like subconsciously even, am I motivated by the fact that like, my sins are being eradicated, that I'm going to like see Krishna faster this way and so on.
I mean, because the reason it says all those things is because the vast majority of people, when they come, are not pure devotees, right? And so their devotional service is mixed. And but in order to become a pure devotee, right, you have to keep hearing and keep doing the process, right? And so this, may spur someone to keep continuing with the process. But ultimately, if they keep doing it, they will become a pure devotee.
So basically it's a transcendental bait and switch tactic to get neophytes attracted to the process.
I mean, yeah,
Not in so many words,
personally
but-
have also thought that as well, so, yeah.
Okay. And then I was just wondering, on a much lighter note, for Sukadev Goswami, like 16 years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Do we know, was it exactly 16 years or a little longer? Like, I'm trying to figure out basically what trimester he was born in. 16 years is 48 trimesters. So if he was born on his 16th like
Uh-huh.
16 years from the conception, then he's 48 trimesters birth
Yeah.
pregnancy, but otherwise it would have been 49, 50, or maybe even 51.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I personally don't know. Perhaps it does say specifically somewhere, but I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think we'll end here. Okay. Akraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.